How's it going, everyone? This is Dr. Brent Pritt coming at you with another falling tutorial for Science of Falling. Now, today we're talking about the stepping strategies, otherwise known as stepping reactions. I've talked about these before on my Instagram account, but today I wanted to go through a full, just essentially teaching method I use to teach patients about these strategies. Now, what is a stepping strategy? Essentially, it's the method we use in our human body. It's a simple bodily mechanism or reaction that we have already innately in us that we can fine tune, that when you stumble or you trip, you use the power of your muscles and step out really quickly and catch yourself. That is what a stepping reaction or stepping strategy is. So stepping strategy is kind of the big term for it, but I like stepping reaction personally because it is more of a reaction. It's a reflex essentially to step out and catch yourself because you don't want to fall. So we can make these stepping reactions pretty second nature, but we need some training in them usually. You know, as we get older, we get a little slower, we don't have as much power, and we may have not been using these stepping strategies, reactions efficiently throughout our life, and maybe they're just not as fine-tuned as they could be. So teaching your patient how to do these stepping strategies is essential to us, a safe life for these patients, or even yourself if you're learning this for your own reasons. So to learn the proper stepping strategies, the full encompass of them, there's about 7 different steps starting from the easiest to the highest level that you can teach your patients. Now, first level is just going to be basic stepping side to side, forward and backward. If your patient or you can't do these basic steps, you just don't have the strength, you don't have the balance, this is where you're going to want to work at for a long time. Because if you can't simply step out on command under your own volition, you're not going to be able to save yourself when a fall occurs that you're not ready for. The second step is going to be what I call the base of support leans. Now, I talked a little bit about this kind of stuff in my base of support model video. So if you haven't watched that, I'll link it up here. Go check it out. It'll really tell you why we do these and the rationale I have behind it. So that's going to be step number 2. The base support leans in straight planes, sideways, forwards, and backwards is what I normally do. The third step is going to be base support leans, but in a 360-degree circle. Now, the reason we're doing these base support leans is essentially to teach a patient where their balance point is, where their tipping point is within their base of support. And I usually do this with feet together to start out, and the person leans around and finds those spaces that they're going to fall if they went any farther. Now, this is going to be pivotal to learning the actual stepping strategies, the higher level forms of them at least, later on down the line. So we got those 2 steps, or those 3 steps technically, and if we combine those, we can finally go into the first level of actual stepping strategy. This is going to be a patient-initiated fall in a straight plane, so either side to side or front and back. What they're basically going to do is find the tipping point and let themselves fall over. Then they're going to catch themselves. While this is happening, a therapist is always going to be guarding them. We want to make sure these patients don't fall while they're training to fall, because that's no fun for anybody. Now, after they learn that, we're going to go and essentially go to the intermediary steps. I can't say that word, man. Of learning stepping strategies. And this is going to start off with the Carioca or Grapevine. Now, the Carioca or Grapevine, if you remember from grade school, is essentially crossing your feet forward and backwards while you're going sideways. It's kind of like what I always tell my patients, trying to do the salsa, trying to dance a little bit, having some fun, crossing the feet, learning a little bit of balance, learning to pick up your foot there. Man, speaking today is real hard. Anyway, so after they do the Grapevine or the Carioca, we can start going into self-initiated falls into those positions of, the forwards and backwards foot situations. And, they're going to get crossed up. They're going to feel awkward. So this might be a spot that we're going to be working at for a few therapy sessions or just a really long time for one therapy session. After that, we get to the ultimate teaching of the stepping strategies, and this is going to be the therapist initiated falls. These falls are essentially initiated by therapists, as I just said, but you're having the patient put all their weight into your hands, and then you let go of them, and they're going to actually have this falling sensation, and their brain's going to have to learn how to react quickly. The only difference between this and a real fall is that you're there to catch them if something goes wrong. So you always have to be prepared, because some patients won't pick their feet up enough, they won't get the foot out far enough, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into this video. So that being said, those 7 steps are pivotal to learning how to do these stepping strategies. And the point of all this is essentially to make it so your patient in the real world, when they trip, can do this, and it's going to be second nature. It's already ingrained in their brain. They don't have to think about it, and they're going to be able to save themselves and prevent, a broken hip, a broken arm, whatever it might be, and keep going on to a day. And all right, that sucked, but I'm safe. Let's keep going. I got stuff to do. So that is kind of the goal of all this. Is to give your patient confidence in their everyday life. So let's get into it and learn a little bit. So we're going to start off again with those basic straight plane steps. So we start off with side to side, the easiest ones. The patient can see where their foot is. They can see what's in front of them, what's on the side of them. Pretty basic. Then we go to the forwards ones again. They know where they're going. They can see everything. Super easy. Make sure they're always doing both feet. We want to make sure that they are even and they are competent on both sides of their body. Don't let them favor one side at all. Now, backward steps are usually the most scary for people. They can't see what's behind them. They aren't as confident. They might not have the balance in that kind of lunge position to really feel confident. So you might need to work at this a little bit and always be behind them to give them some extra comfort. After we do that, we're going to be doing the base of support leans. Now, these base of support leans, again, are all about finding the tipping point in their balance. So I'm going to just let the video play, and you can see how I normally teach a patient how to learn these and kind of what's going on there. But if you haven't watched it yet, watch my base of support model video, and I'll go further in depth in why we teach a patient this and how much confidence it can give them. So imagine there's a circle around you, and that circle is your balance circle. So now I want you to go forwards for me. Find that as the heels might rise up, and go backwards. The toes are going to rise up a little bit. Good. So you found that. See how kind of if you went, you would fall over. Now side to side. Yep, come towards me. Good. Then the other side. Good. All right. Now what I want you to do is trace that circle. Try to find the limits of that support. Going. Now go the other way. Oh, but you're really getting close on that. And then come to center. Okay. So now you know where those limits are. So after they know what their limits are in that base, after doing the base of support drills, that's when we're going to mix those stepping patterns that we did originally with this base of support lean, and we're gonna I take that back. They're gonna make themselves essentially lose their balance and fall over and have to catch themselves in those straight planes. So sideways, forwards, and backwards. Now in this, backwards is gonna be the most scary, so always give them support and confidence that you're there with them. Keep your fingertips on their back for the first few ones, and then give them the freedom to kind of go and catch them if they need it. Now make sure that you're using both feet equally, side to side. Clearly those are going to equalize, but forwards and backwards, make sure they're using their right and left feet in those both forward positions and both backwards positions to make them proficient in all of that. If they're not proficient in that, they're going to get into a scenario where one of those steps is their weak point, and that's going to be where they fall and they get hurt, and we don't want that. That's not our goal, right? So just make sure they're always even. Along with that, even if they feel comfortable with it, always guard. It's just a safety issue there. You don't want a patient falling on your watch. So that is just my final take on that. So let's watch in and see how he's doing. We're going to do the side stepping. So what you're going to do is you're going to lean. Once you hit that point, side step and catch. Do it again for me. Good. One more time. Good. Other side. Good. Good. Now face that way for me. Take one step back. Okay. Now what you're going to do is you're going to lean forward. Okay. Good. Again for me. Good. Switch feet. Just some shoes. You. Good. All right. Now you're going to take one step physically forward. Now you're going to go backwards. And I'm right here with you. So I'm doing this with a video first. Come back. Good. One more time. Good. All right, now I'm not going to have my hands on you. Again. Good. And then one more time with the other foot. Good. All right, next we're going to be going into karaokes like I talked about. The karaokes are the grapevines. You might remember as a kid, they're all about crossing the legs. So teaching a patient how to do this is going to give them the confidence to be in more of an awkward position and still be balanced and catch themselves. So you need to teach them this step. This is, it's not a simple step you should be breezing over. It is a step that you should really focus on with the patient. The great thing about karaokes and grapevines is not only does it teach them how to cross their feet, but it's a really good dynamic balancing exercise. So the slower you go, the more the patient is going to have to see their flaws in their balance and wobble and really, are they kicking their feet as they come over? Are they dragging their foot at all? Are they losing their balance more to the left or to the right, or more to the front or to the back? And we're really bringing self-awareness to this patient's kind of the chinks in their armor of their balance in these awkward positions. So this is a really good step. You can spend a lot of time on this step. I do this with almost all my patients every time I'm with them. We go through this pattern because you're just working on so much. So the karaokes are a really good tool for balanced patients in general.
Alright, ready?
So I'll tell you what to do. Yep. So forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. One more. Backwards. And go the other way. Forwards, backwards. Yep. Forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards. Forwards. Good. So after learning karaoke and having your patient kind of master that, you want them fairly proficient in it. They don't have to be a master, but they need to be pretty good at it. They need to be able to step over and catch themselves without clipping their foot, without stumbling too much, without being in a situation where you think they're going to fall just doing the karaoke. So after we do that, we're going on to self-initiated cross steps. So we're going to start off patients usually doing a self-initiated cross step to the front. It's a little bit easier. The legs don't feel as tangled up for most patients, and they'll be able to control this better. After that, you go to cross steps behind their leg. And these are a little more awkward. The hips usually feel a little more tangled up. They're a little bit harder for people. So you need to always guard, obviously, but give these patients some confidence in themselves by having them do smaller falls first, then followed by big falls, and also giving them permission to do 2 steps instead of just the 1 cross step. And this will give them, more confidence, more comfort in doing these activities. So next what we're going to do is you are going to stand here. You're going to lean this direction, and we're going to do 2 forwards. So catch yourself. And if you need to take an extra step, go for it. Okay. And we're going to do that in both directions. Okay. And I usually teach people this, and you're just kind of doing it, so I know it's hard. And what you're going to do is I'll be here, and I'll protect you if you stumble a little bit. Yep. Just like that. Just like that, yep. Good. One more clean one. Good. Step a little towards me. We're going to go this way now. Forwards. Good. Forwards. Good. Alright, step over here again. Alright, now we're going to do backwards. So you're going to lean. You'll probably have to take 2 steps for this one, so it's a little more awkward. Good. Take your feet up when you do it. Good. I know. Try doing 1 step, but it usually takes 2. Good. Alright, step this way. Alright, same idea. Going backwards here. So now we're going to be going into the hardest version in terms of teaching of the stepping strategies. This is going to be the therapist initiated fall. So essentially the patient needs to have all their weight falling into your hands as a therapist. And as they put their weight in their hands, you allow them to lean over that base of support edge. Kind of usually, the shoulders are going to be over the ankles or the toes or the heels, into a point where they're gonna fall if you let go. And that's kind of the point. What we want to do is get to the point where we can let go of these patients without telling them when we're letting go, and these patients can catch themselves. But getting into that, there's going to be some progressions depending on your patient. You might not need to do smaller versions of this first. You might need to tell them when you're going to let them go first, so they're prepared for the fall. And then finally, you're going to do this again with no warning of the fall. You're just going to let them go. Now, what this does is imitates a real fall, and it prepares their brains to make these kind of powerful steps a second nature reaction, and allows them to prepare for the real world when they trip or stumble without knowing it.
So we have one more thing now. This is something we didn't talk about. So this next one is going to be, instead of you initiating it and you feel when you need to go, I'm going to initiate it. You don't know what's going to happen. You are going to put your feet all the way together. We're going to start off with simple side steps. Don't cross your feet at all. Okay. You're going to lean in my hands. I'm not going to tell you when you're going to fall. I'm just going to let go, and you have to catch yourself. All right. So lean. Give me all your weight. Let fall. Dude. Good. I do this so my patients, man. Good. All right, go one step to the side. No, don't fall yet. I'm not going to catch you. All right? Lean into me. Don't fall. That's the point. Lean into me. Good. One more.
What?
Last one. Good. All right. Now face this way.
Nope, we're proving what you want to prove.
Yep. Back up. Left foot. Right there. So you're going to lean forward now. So bring your feet together and lean onto your toes. Either foot. Good. You're doing good. Good. All right, now we're going forward. Okay, now you're going to lean backwards. This is a trust fall, essentially.
Okay.
Either foot, lean back into me. You can do a small one at first. Sorry. So stabilize your core. Make your core tight. Ready? No, too soon. Good. Make a bigger step there. Good job. All right, one more. Okay, we're a little off kilter here. Let's turn that way. Nice.
So, okay.
Lean into me. You're across to the front.
Are you ready?
No, because I don't want you to anticipate it. Good. Give me two of these each. Good. Alright, side step. Front, twice. Okay. That was a big one.
Yeah.
Alright, one more good one.
I'm afraid to do it.
Well, you're not going to like this next one, though. We're going to go backwards. Go backwards. There. Alright. Maybe. Small one first. Good. Remember, you can twist those hips, too, just like that grapevine. Let's do one more.
Oh, come on.
Good. Alright. Side step. Good.
Twist my foot.
There you go. Alright, last one. And then you're done for today. How'd that feel?
Now, as you saw, I usually start out again with the standard side stepping for the therapist-initiated falls, followed by the forward falls and then backwards falls, because backwards falls are one of the scarier falls for your patients in this situation. After I do all those, I start incorporating the cross steps. Cross steps, I think, are the most technically challenging for a patient because there's so much involved in that situation. So, you might have to stick with these for a while and really drill them with the patient, and that's okay. I suggest that you drill all of these higher level stepping strategies with your patient every time they come into the clinic, I guess, or the gym or whatever, wherever you're working. Now, when they're doing these, every time they come in, you're just reinforcing these kind of neural structures that know how to do this in their brain. So when they get into that falling situation, again, they've done it so many times, it is just a quick reaction. They don't have to think about it because, any second thinking during a fall could be a second wasted to safety. Now, during these stepping strategies at these higher levels, there's a couple things you need to be aware of. The patient needs to have their body really stiff. If their body isn't stiff, they're not going to get a good fall out of this. Secondly, you need to watch your feet. So as you can tell in the videos, if you want to go back and watch them a little bit, my feet are always out of the way from where the patient is stepping. If my feet are in their way, they're going to step on me, which A, doesn't feel good, but B, can actually lead to a rolled ankle, to a secondary fall that this patient isn't ready for, to catch themselves in that manner. So, it just makes it safer to have your foot out of the way and give them the clearance to step, but always have your hands there for their safety as well. So if something does go wrong, you need to catch them, because I've had patients who actually have legitimately fallen during these, and I've had to catch them because their feet couldn't catch them as well. So that is always a possibility, even if your patient is higher level. Now, two things on the backward stepping during these self-initiated or even therapist-initiated falls. Two big technique flaws, I guess would be the word that patients normally have, would be A, they don't step back far enough on their step. So if they take a small step backwards to save themselves, what's going to happen is there's still going to be momentum and their weight's still going to be backwards behind that foot, and they're still going to be falling, and you'll end up in a kind of a comedic like YouTube-like video of someone kind of stepping backwards 20 times to catch themselves. So, always cue a patient to take big, large steps backwards, raise their foot, make sure they don't clip the ground, and make sure they step long enough way away to catch themselves. Secondly, make sure they're not leaned back super far with their torso. You want them to lead the fall with their hips a little bit and the shoulders as one rigid plank of wood, essentially, and just have them lean backwards. If they're kind of floppy, what's going to happen is two things. A, they might end up having more weight behind their foot, and again, ending up in that comedic kind of run back until they finally go to the ground. But B, if they're really floppy going backwards and they step, they're going to hurt their back, and they might hurt their ankle as well, just from the extra force coming through and not being able to be absorbed very efficiently. So watch out for those kind of those drawbacks there when you're teaching your patients. But besides that, play around and kind of figure out what your best instructional tips are. Play around and figure out where your best positioning is for your hands and your feet, and go from there. These are really easy falling techniques to teach a patient. They might need to be drilled a little bit, but they're not nearly as scary as doing like a forward roll or falling onto your butt or your back. These are all done standing up, and ideally, in a perfect world, if you're doing this correctly, your patients will never go to the ground doing this. So there's really no reason to not teach your patient these stepping strategies and drill them. These are basically what I like to call probably the first line defense to falling, because before you even need to use one of those higher level falling strategies like a roll, you're going to have to step out. So can you save yourself stepping out before you even need the roll? I would say 9 times out of 10, a patient probably could. So, drill these, make your patient really proficient in them, make them feel like they're confident in them. And once they get these down, their balance will improve too, because they'll just understand that they can catch themselves if they fell. So they'll play around a little bit more on their feet and make sure they don't do any kind of like tap dancing when they're balancing, trying to prevent the fall. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully that wasn't too convoluted. It's pretty simple to learn this stuff. So just watch the video again if you need a couple more tips or kind of see how I do the techniques here. And anyway, see you guys next time. Happy falling.